But I think my understanding of the neuroscience is that also sometimes when we use a certain pathway a lot, we build a highway, we build a gray matter, I think. So kind of we access it better, or quicker rather. So whether the computer also had that kind of, it will build over time, certain neural pathway become more stronger than the other, we don't know. But what's interesting, the other thing that it reminds me is that now actually there's computers who can forget.
Computers
who can forget.
Who are forgetting.
Okay. So they are moving into kind of very weird space.
Wow.
That is becoming more and more like human.
Because that's a human characteristic.
That is human. We would think that machines can't forget. But they actually they can. No, not all of them, but they have that capacity.
They did not be our PhD. on computer memory things.
This gentleman here had a question, and then I'll go.
Thank you very much. My name is Nathan. From the last statement you made, where you said they can probably, on a normative basis, replicate a human being. What I'd be interested to understand is, theoretically, how would that tally with the development of jurisprudence of law, for instance? Because then, if they can replicate us, I find a human being, as much as they can, human beings are very deceptive as well. You know, they can lead you on a garden path, not knowing that they're going to throw you in the drain. So if they are capable of doing that, how will jurisprudence law develop? In terms of, for instance, if I own, what's the name of that lady, that computer?
Sophia.
Yeah, Sophia. Right. If Sophia goes and shoots students at a university, and she was my property, I bought her. Jurisprudence is she her own legal person, or I take responsibility for her in terms of law? I'll be very interested because I don't see how they have to move in tandem, the law and what's called. So what's your take on that?
That's definitely a big issue in the law, in the legal kind of sphere from what I understand. Again, I'm not into law, but what I understand, but I need to firstly point out one thing. We are not talking about AI or machines replicating us yet. We are talking about them replicating themselves, because that's very easy for them to do.
Okay.
So we are not saying that the AIs are replicating, but I think what you point out is back to that question of accountability and responsibility.
Right.
And it has been a very, very big issue in the whole discussions in the legal, but also broadly in ethics. So that's also actually both the best and the good side. So if something bad happened, who should be responsible for that? That's one. But also if something good, let's say the AI who makes the music. Actually not too long ago, that's not the AI. I think it was a chimpanzee who happened to come up with a camera and made lots of kind of interesting pictures. Yeah, and then, like, who claimed credit for that? And at some point, if let's say those pieces, let's say the AI robot who paints, so who actually claimed all the profit? Is it that person? Or in the case of Sophia, maybe she has an identity, she has like citizenship, but in the other AI doesn't even have a form. So is it the inventor who claimed that credit rather, or if they say they're starting to replicate themselves, and then it becomes like, who is the owner of that? It's going to be becoming more and more complicated, really. But it has been a very, very big concern.
Okay, this gentleman in the corner, and then he's going to
Thank you very much, Program Director. Something I don't think I can stand because I'm at the back of the class this for today. Thank you very much, Prof. I think an interesting analogy. You know, we from the professions of psychology also have the human touch in it, and we ask lots of questions in AI, and I presume that's going to be the big challenge. I wanted to link onto your previous thing. You said some computers can forget at any given point in time. Now, in psychology theory, in developmental theory, there ain't no such thing as forgetting. It is, in psychological terms, the inability to recall at any given point in time. That's why you have the aha effect. Later on you say, oh, I know that chief is Malusi Tika. That's that one. And then you remember that's the aha effect. So I presume, like humans, because they are programs, you can have the aha, you can have the forgetting that you're thinking. But in psychology, they said it's the inability to, there's no forgetting, it's just the inability to recall at any given point in time. I'm interested, well, I've got a question for you, Prof. The robot that wrote the entrance exams, you said did not exactly pass the entrance exams. I want to know why did the robot not pass? But she came close. She did more than others. She did better than other students. He or she, by the way. So that's a question. But just as a final parting shot, I'm also interested in that citizenship. That interesting you mentioned. Nobody has granted citizenship. So just to perhaps expand a little bit more. And my whole issue, and this links up with psychology, I was wondering, does a robot have personality? Can it be programmed to have personality? In other words, can we predict to some level or the other personality and behavior? Now, the science of psychology is understanding human behavior better. Now, in AI, that's also understanding predictability with robots, etc. But I'm fascinated. So I see you were supposed to be with the VCA, he gave me interesting thoughts. So I'm going to probe him on the issue of personality theory. So that's the subject that I thought. Now I don't know whether you know theories such as Freud, Erikson, Skinner, Bandura, Rogers. Those are personality theories. And psychology students love to hate personality psychology because of the abstract nature of it. So personality is not as clear as developmental psychology or environmental psychology. So my parting shot is looking at the framework. So all these theories have a different framework of the articulation they make. So for example, Freud believes that behavior is determined by the subconscious, beyond the consciousness. Erikson, again, behavior is determined by the environment. Any factors impacting on the individual is the behavior. So does robots, can they have personality? Thank you.
You are throwing so many difficult questions. And I think the first thing that you said actually goes back to that access issue. I think the memory is really about access to that memory and whether the machines can access the memory. And I think that's also linked to it. The other thing is, sometimes it's the access, but it's also linked to the priority that we said. Because if it's actually the same with the computer working memory. It's not that it doesn't have the memory, it's there, but at that particular moment, the priority is set such that it wouldn't access that part. So it's really about the access issues. But I think it's also kind of interesting that now compared with the human and the machine, people say that now it's human to make errors. So some of the capture, they say you have to make error to be qualified as a human because the machine doesn't make mistakes. The university entrance lab robot, I can't remember because there was also
Just so that I know next time I see one of those things. Because I get one wrong at least. Because I try to get them all right. Don't do it. Got to do it slow and make one mistake. Do it slow and make one mistake. Okay, right. I'm learning.
There's so many different variations of the capture that it's like that. It's a whole field by itself. It's kind of fascinating. I think some people also try to use game to test whether it's actually human or they use video. They use lots of different, but it's kind of fun. But anyway, the robot who almost passed the entrance exam, it was that time was also made a TED talk. Japanese researcher made. I don't think she talked about why the robot didn't kind of pass, because basically the robot is asked to take it and to see how well the machine can do. And it kind of scored, I think it's above average, but it just didn't cross the entrance exam that kind of mark at the time. But then again, that was a few years ago. So, I mean, currently we don't know how fast that field has developed. But basically what that shows is that the machine can be doing some comprehensive kind of work because, I mean, passing an examination, firstly you need to read and write. I mean, you need to read and write, be able to write. You need to be able to comprehend what that is. I mean, it's almost like it wasn't to understand the Jeopardy kind of things. You do need to have some kind of capacity to understand what that means. I mean, again, they say the Google isn't perfect on that because it's not too long ago, some people posed a question to Google to say, when does George Washington own a computer? And the Google cannot answer that because it still can't kind of really understand. You need to look at the years of George Washington and the year that computer was invented. So some kind of link is still not there, but the computer seems to be okay to understand most of, not most, but some of the kind of really natural language kind of processing. It seems to be moving quite well in that direction too. The citizen. Well, you have too many questions. I'm too old to remember all the questions. What happened with the Sophia question?
I'm saying this, the robot that was granted citizenship. What is meant? Really granted citizenship.
She's now a Saudi citizen.
Yes.
She's entitled to petrol projects.
And she maybe one day she will marry an like
A sheikh.
she was granted citizenship in that country.
She's blonde.
So she's free to try to escape to London like somebody else.
Yeah, I would like
Is that at the back here and then...
Then there was also the personality question.
Over. Yes.
So personality, I think it also depends on, firstly, because the few authors that you mentioned, they are kind of trying to explain where personality comes from, which is different from which aspect of the personality define the traits. I think firstly one need to differentiate that.
Yes.
Two, I think one need to kind of be mindful that the machines do not necessarily firstly understand our emotion to be able to manipulate us, because it just needs to be able to read it. One of the danger that what's his name, who wrote *Sapien*, he in one of his later book, Harry, he wrote 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. One of the things he was really kind of trying to say in that is that listen music, they create music. They don't need to know what we like, but they can read, let's say, our bodily sensations. We will sweat more, or we will kind of show some kind of sensory kind of things that they can pick up. And then they can work on it because they only need that reinforced loop. They only need to know what will trigger what in us. They don't need to know what exactly we feel. So that's kind of the scary part of it, is that they can really manipulate on that point without really knowing us. But they can know us better in that sense, because they will know exactly what we feel. Sometimes we even deceive ourselves for whatever reasons. I mean, there's also the whole discussion in that in psychology. But they would exactly know how we think in that sense.
I'd like to come back to that later because I think that's actually a weak point in Herrera's argument, but let's continue. Other people have been waiting patiently.
Good evening, everyone. Professor, you talk about emotions and robots, and you say that since they cannot emote, therefore they make rational decisions. You say that it really eliminates the biasness thing. So what about the technological bias from which, if you are the one who created the robot, then the robot steers towards what you are, how you perceive things. So how do we feel around this?
The bias in the AI application has been, again, a big issue. I mean, because they only read data, so it depends on what data they are fed on.
Yeah.
So if the data show any kind of bias, they are just going to amplify that.
So how do we?
So I think what I've heard, again, I'm not exactly in the computer science. We have a computer scientist here. She's into the data science. So one of the way I heard is that you introduce the randomness in the kind of the data that you feed in. That kind of sometimes it doesn't only read, but sometimes it will jump to some kind of, add a little bit randomness. The other thing is that sometimes if we know where the bias is kind of getting towards, you can kind of artificially correct, but that might risk again how much you correct it. So there is kind of a very tricky situation.
Yeah, no, there's lots of testing that you can do. Google, Facebook, they all have tools that you can actually use to test your AI to see if there's any bias. Because things that you might not explicitly think of, like taking a very biased set, if you take home loans that were given out to South Africans in the 1900s, that's going to be a very biased set. So you can't use that. If you're trying something else, you could possibly look at addresses, and suddenly then you again have a very biased set because someone's physical address is particularly in South Africa, probably going to determine their race, and then that can determine whether they get a home loan or not. And obviously that's not right. So like things like that, it's very difficult to kind of, and there are lots of issues where people put algorithms into production where they haven't done the proper work to check their bias, to check how it is working, and kind of have a basic understanding of how it's working. And then somebody goes and applies for a home loan, doesn't get in, gets an explanation, and it turns out it was their address, or it was the characters in their name. Yeah, so it is something that is constantly being addressed and fought for, but it's not always at the forefront when people are designing these algorithms, which is a problem.
Would you ever be able to get away from it? Like, some of this is historical stuff, and you can't really change that point in time in history, right?
Yeah.
So there would always be that element of, regardless of the computer being biased or not,
Yeah.
that kind of thing would still always occur.
Yeah, so there are ways of going and kind of balancing out data. As long as everyone is like very open and transparent about what was done to this data, how it was possibly adjusted before being used to train. And that, again, we get back to that multidisciplinary. Many people sitting down in a room discussing what the plan is and how it's going to be tackled, then that can lead to an outcome that is, because yeah, we need this. It's going to happen. We just need to do it properly.
Yes, so there was a...
Yes, I just wanted to ask about the new modules that they're introducing, such as principle of philosophy for technology. Now, in a realistic perspective, looking at the future, I just wanted to understand the relation between these sort of robots and human beings, pardon my slightly self-reliant things, and how they'll be able to mitigate, you see, between certain things that are happening. How relevant are they in society space, in a sociological perspective, so that they also, act as healers, basically, if I could take it there? Because, I mean, like, currently we're speaking about robots, and the way I'm seeing it, violence is on the rise. And that is the thing, because they're unpredictable. As it states, they don't need, understanding or meaning to do whatever it is in order for them to do. So how would they be able to mitigate violence in terms of, being there for human beings instead of, like the movie where Will Smith is acting and all that stuff. Basically, that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So, because I think, like human beings are so violent. What about robots when they're controllable? So
But they are also very good human beings. So again, we have the potential to be good and bad, and it's, again, possibly the psychology will say that it's the situation that would make which part can come out more strongly. But if I understand your question correctly, you're talking about the relationship between human and the machines.
yes.
And I think broadly there's kind of the
Perception.
yeah, pessimist. who's basically kind of saying that robot would dominate us. They will think at some point we become, not necessarily useless, but we are just become obsolete. And they will basically, because they can't do anything better than humans, who was on the planet humans around. But there's another school kind of taking a more positive kind of view on it, to say that robots are here to assist us, and we can work together. And I think that's the kind of best scenario if it happens, is that, but on some sense, in some sense, we are actually now working a lot. We are using the AI application quite a lot. We actually can't live without it. In lots of sense, now how can we live without Google? But there are lots of kind of areas that, so the ideal scenario is that we will be able to work with them and use their strengths and use our strengths. But then my question is, where exactly is our strength? We need to define it. And it is specialized the way to define our strengths. We need to really ask more questions of what we are good at, what we should do, what we should do, and what we should leave to the AI to do. And hopefully they don't revolt.
Something that you said quite interesting in terms of working with AI. assisting. So I'm thinking of the issue around efficiency, and it's a frenzy, efficiency alongside with AI. But in the developing world, like in a contextual sense, South Africa and the inequality that exists, what does that look like when you say work alongside, when work is not, something that's
Will be replaced.
available, right, for everyone, where we have a chunk of a population that lives in poverty that does not work. So what is, I know it's a bit of a hysteria at the moment. So what does that look like in terms of efficiency, work together, but oops, on the other side, this is the reality.
It's maybe not necessarily an efficiency issue. It's really, again, there has been a lot of discussions and worries about, especially in terms of future of work, how much of the work will be replaced by AI. How different this time will be compared with the other previous industrial revolutions, where eventually actually more work is created. And I think the other worry is also the potential different nature of this time around, because previously the machines generally always start with replacing the lower skill level, but this time actually it's going to replace the middle skill level. That's going to be the sector that's going to be most affected. And that's going to be even more scary, because those people firstly would know quite a lot, be very smart, and have a lot of voice. It's going to be different in that sense. Because the highly skilled ones, you will still need them, and people can analyze whatever. Actually, the manual skill will still be needed. At least that will be slower in terms of the replace rate by the robots themselves, because we do need lots of work that still can be done more efficiently by human than by machines. And to some point, obviously, but it's going to be slower than the middle actually kind of class work that can be replaced by the AI very quickly. So that's kind of, in a way, scary part. But then again, I always have a question with the whole population development kind of story. And again, that's my opinion. I think at this point of time or soon, population is not going to be a dividend. It's becoming a burden to some extent, to a larger extent than what's currently now. Because so far we've always talked about we need larger population to have the workforce to do this and that. But at some point when we really don't need as much, then what's going to happen with all the people? Again, the Harari was saying that that group of people will become irrelevant. And that's actually very dangerous, because actually if you have something to fight for, you're against that, inequality, you're against capitalism or whatever, you still have a drop. But if your life becomes irrelevant, that's actually very scary. So it's like, what's your purpose of even existing? Because you are no longer needed almost. So that's a very scary scenario.
Okay, I'll take 3 more questions in the back here, on the side, and then we'll last.
Prof, my question is centered mainly around human robots or human AI cooperation. Another thing, now today we're hearing nicknames in the US talking about things like the neural link, what they're saying now, they're going to link, they are planning to link the human neural system with the one that is created now, the ANN. Instead of you having to, let's say, switch off the TV, it's something that you just need to think about, the TV.
The chips.
Yeah, there's something along those lines. So, these, I don't want to say scary ideas, are coming from those who are already, I can say in the point of privilege regarding exposure to information. Because the more you know about these things, the more calm you become. So here, say Africa as a whole, do we still need to go through the whole process, or is there a way, ahead of a way, let's say, of leapfrog? Do we still need to go through the second industrial revolution, the first? There are people who don't even have the very same electricity today that we think is no longer needed. Do we need to go through that whole process? That's the second question. The first question was, this neural network link human beings and robots coming together. And now you're talking about chemical reactions in the brain, so I'm wondering now, the system, how will it be able to connect with biological processes or systems in our brain? So it's just two questions that I have.
So you are again looking into the future, what's going to happen between biological and chemical and computer is what the signal, electrical.
Yeah.
So that kind of space. That's the people working in that field will sort out. But I think what you said, and that's something also Malusi asked in the previous presentation that VC had. I think also the danger, and also Harry also mentioned that, is that at some point the intelligence can be bought. The divide will be there, and it's going to be bigger because the people who have money can can get a chip. Can, let's say, I mean, that's not AI, but that's the designer baby. They have the money, they can actually buy intelligence, where the poor people wouldn't be able to. Okay, maybe they are not even aware. So at some point, that divide is going to be much, and that's going to be scary. Because where the intelligence can be actually manufactured and be bought, so the differentiating between biological and really all this chemical, electrical will be less. And that will be very scary. But I think the other thing, you were asking whether one needs to go through all the steps. Or the thing is, I mean, do we really have a choice there? The thing is, all those things are there. And we would just, I mean, the thing is, if we don't talk about it, if we don't plan whichever that would mean, it's going to be in there no matter what we think or what we are for. Whether we are prepared or not, it's going to be there. That thing would happen no matter what. And that's not largely, it's not driven by small countries and countries without much data or advance in the technology. So, I mean, what can we do in that space? I mean, currently what we see, what the university, what the society has been trying to do is really, at least firstly, make people aware this might be an issue at some point. Secondly, try to think, I mean, we do have lots of very smart young people. And I mean, ultimately, whether we can crowdsourcing, if that's the correct word, some kind of solution to what problem we don't know, but to come up with some ideas from lots of different people. I think to create that kind of awareness is the first step, because we do need to tap into the talent of a lot more people, rather than just say the data scientist, rather than say whoever works in the university. We need to really know more what other people can think of, because it's really in the numbers. Eventually, that's possibly what if we need to win.
So can you buy? So you say you can buy, you'll be able to buy intelligence.
Yes.
So you can literally buy a lawyer that will be able to get you off the hook in this case.
Not worse than, not better than.
Okay, this question.
So I have two questions. One thing that you are touching on, and everyone is touching on, is that we're looking to use AI in our future a lot more. Have you heard of any cases that it's been analyzing past scenarios? I'm thinking more along the lines of, can it analyze our past patterns and then see where we're going in the future? I mean, if a lot of the UN and the governments around the world are listening to global warming facts that are coming out, they may be listening to a computer saying, okay, these are your past trends, listen, what are we going to, guys? And in that, maybe just touch on religion. And then also, we also spoke about making a robot or AI making a rational decision in the environment that it's been given and that memory. Could it then be said that a AI could possibly be a judge in certain environments in making that rational decision, and being given maybe a personality test that a criminal did do? If we give this person bail and they've done this in the past and this is their personality, here's your inputs. What are possible outcomes?
The court has been using that, from what I'm hearing. That the US has been doing that for a very long time, actually. Using the data predict how likely that person is going to relapse or whatever, and but then that's the bias issue coming into, is that it tends to favor certain populations over than others, and that's dangerous. But actually people have been using that. And people using that in the employment, I think people have been using that in a lot of aspects that we probably just don't think of.
Predictive policing.
Yeah. But in some aspect, I think it can be useful. For example, if they can identify, let's say, the hotspot of violence, I mean, because they can see more data, they can possibly identify the pattern, but that will be useful to us. But some other things will be tricky, will be very tricky.
Scary.
Okay, let you bring up back the pack, and sort of the last is Shelby first.
So there's been a lot of talk about memory and not recalling and forgetting and so on. So a two-part issue. First of all, where does deja vu come into the picture? And second, of all, Dr. Gentleman at the back was talking about linking the biological brain with a neural network type scenario. Is it going to be possible? What are your thoughts on humans being able to be immortal by transferring their personality, their brain power, their memories, etc., to an artificial intelligence, and therefore, even though you might, as a biological being, pass away, die, that robot continues your...
There's a movie on it. It was quite a while ago. There's a movie exactly on that. The person anticipates he's dying and he uploads all his memory in the cloud and becomes something, and then I can't remember exactly. So people have been thinking about that whole thing. And I think there's another TED Talk which I always don't exactly understand, because it was a mouthful story, and it was quite a while ago I heard. The person actually talked about his uploading his memory onto the cloud. But by that time, it was quite a few years ago, and I didn't understand that it was possible. But there was someone actually talking on TED Talk about uploading his memory onto somewhere. The deja vu issue is probably, again, it's the access issue. It's the access memory issue. So the memory is there, but whether we can access it, if at some point we can't, and then at some point we again can, then that creates that deja vu. Is it real?
Isn't it still the supervised center of AI, us supervising AI, say, okay, it should do this, it should do this. What about the unsupervised learning of AI? What is that actually? Is it towards a specific goal? Is it learning specific things towards?
If I go back with me, it'll come back. Anyway, so from my understanding of reading of the field, there are kind of the three types. So right now seems to be the reinforced and supervised are the predominant kind of the type that is there. And for both of those, you need a goal. And the difference is whether you give it training data or not training data. But the unsupervised is there. But currently, my understanding is that it has been used to kind of sort out things, to put them into categories, to find resemblance, to find kind of, to try to cluster. So they don't necessarily have a goal, but they kind of try to find patterns. So that's my understanding of currently where the field is.
I think we could continue all evening. In fact, I think one of the things I would suggest, JIAS is actually one of the projects we'll be starting in the future. Is this idea that's very popular in other cities, certainly in London, the Salon series, which would be an interactive discussion, which would also be multidisciplinary. And this strikes me as an ideal topic for the Salon, because it touches on so many fields, and I think so many people can participate in that. So I would welcome your participation in that sometime next year when we get that off the ground. We are in partnership with the Market Theatre, so we're looking at doing this in a space which is out to a much broader audience than strictly academic. But I want to thank you all for coming. We could continue, I think, all evening, but I think you really have earned another slice of pizza. This is the problem. It was very engaging discussion. I very much enjoyed, and I'm grateful to you all for your contributions. I'm sorry I had to cut off the discussion, but at some point you have to go to the movement. You're going to lose your voice if you keep talking. You really have been peppered with questions, very good questions, and you've handled them marvelously. So thank you all, and thank you once again. Let's one last round of applause. I don't know what, Linda, what is our next event? Linda? What is our next event at JIS?
It's on Thursday,
Yeah.
same time.
Okay.
It's a patronage.
That's a couple